I think today is a good day to talk about a central theme of this show, the thing that is the most important to me, my faith. How I kind of got here and why I'm always talking about God on this show, why it is something super, super important for me. That's what I'm going to be talking about today. I've kind of given my story at least a little bit in parts throughout this show. I think it's a good time to reiterate it and talk about it a little bit more and just explain why my faith is strong. It's stronger than really it's ever been in my life, and that's really the truth. And I think I'm going through it, right? Things are tough, right? But I'm growing in the Christian faith, growing in my belief in Jesus Christ, and that is what strengthens me, and that is what is the driver between a lot that I do in my life right now. And and this is kind of the thing that is closest to me, so that's why I want to share my kind of story a little bit better in a bit more of a kind of concise way, let's say, in this episode. So thank you for being here. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you learn something. I hope that this my testimony, my kind of faith journey can help you strengthen your faith in some way as well. So without further ado, let's get right into it. I make a podcast episode every single day for 365 days. You will be hated for speaking the truth.
You definitely have like an x-ray goggles on where you can see someone's aura.
A house divided against itself shall not stand. Matthew chapter 12, verse 25.
If you want to make something of yourself, forget your political beliefs.
Because different believers experience God in different ways, different non-believers need different explanations to see God as real. Things that make you angry suck you in.
Satan's plan fails, right? And God's plan prevails.
So I'm recording this pretty early in the morning, so forgive me for a little bit of like tired type of vibes. At least in the beginning, as I get into it, I'll kind of get more and more energized as I get into this episode. But my faith, right? I talk about God a lot on this show, and it's kind of been a thing that I've done on purpose. I'm like, this show, I'm gonna be very annoying. I'm on purpose being like just very annoying about it, very like out there about it, like try my best to mention God in every single episode. And that's the idea, that's the goal. I think there were only like a couple of episodes where God wasn't mentioned, or like just the word God, God's presence wasn't mentioned in some way. Only like a couple episodes on the show, and I've done almost 250. So I haven't done that bad in mentioning God and trying my best to glorify the kingdom with these episodes. Obviously, not a lot of people watch the episodes, and I've accepted that a while ago. But I feel like, at least to me, this show is like a safe space. Like, I mention God way more often on this show, and my faith way more often on this show than I even do like in my own real life. I see this show as like it's like a safe space. It's a place for me to just kind of talk about things that maybe I don't necessarily talk about too much in my normal life, but this is kind of what I'm thinking about on a day-to-day basis. And faith is obviously a huge, huge part of it, right? And as I'm kind of growing in my faith, I'm trying my best to kind of mention it a little bit more and let that kind of be a bigger part of my life in my day-to-day around other people. Even if people don't have faith, I try my best to kind of at least mention it and at least have these values that I hold kind of be held and be seen a little bit more in my day-to-day life. Like, you have to remember that I'm still like kind of a baby Christian. Honestly, like, I'm not even 3 years into being a full dedicated Christian, like maybe 2.5 years of actually doing it, doing the prayer. It only started with me praying, and then eventually I started to go to church, I started to read the Bible, and then that's how my faith just slowly grew and grew and grew. And now it's at the place where it's at now. Of course, like, my faith has kind of been up and down in recent months because of the difficulties I've been going through, but through it all I've been consistent with my prayers and consistently giving it up to God in all of the difficulties that I'm dealing with, these challenges I've been going through. And it's been helping me a lot, and I've been seeing God pour into me many interesting but also very amazing things throughout these last few months or so. So I'm confident, and I think I'm in a decent place, at least for today. I mean, I had a good night's sleep last night, and that helps me be in a better mood. But I am definitely in a decent place today, and at least in this recent time in my life. So bear with me, right? Bear with me a little bit if I'm kind of not 100% like, there, right? Like, I make a mistake here and there, right? I don't quote the verse perfectly from the Bible, whatever it may be. It's because I'm still pretty young into it, right? I have a whole life to live to glorify the kingdom, to overcome the sins that I'm dealing with, and sometimes I actually have to remember that myself because I fall into temptation still, and am hard on myself at times, and I'm shameful, and I shame myself at times for it. But reality is, I have a lot of time to overcome it, and it's a long life process, a lifelong process. I'm only a couple of years into my faith journey, and so I shouldn't really be that hard on myself. But also at the same time, like, bear with me a little bit, right? Because I've made a lot of mistakes. I've definitely misquoted a bunch of things, and from a bunch of different people. Sometimes very funny, and sometimes it's a good thing that not a lot of people watch this show, because then my embarrassing moments and embarrassing mistakes aren't really put to light as much. But of course, at the same time, the good messages I share also aren't really put to light as much. But listen, it is what it is. I've kind of accepted a while ago that this show's not really going anywhere. I'm just doing this. It's now purely just 100% just like a little hobby that I'm just going through, just saying my stuff, talking. It gives me some time to reflect on my life and moments that I'm going through. And that's pretty much all that's pretty much all it is. That's pretty much all we're doing. So it gives me the chance to be vulnerable, of course. It gives me the chance to just talk what I've been dealing with, and kind of here you go. This is my testimony. This is me kind of talking about faith and talking about why it is so important in my life. I think the last time I talked about it in this light was when I was preparing for my professional football trial, where I talked about how faith was the foundation for everything that I went through. If you don't know my story, I went to Europe, I went to Portugal, went to Spain to try and make it as a professional footballer, soccer player, whatever country you're in, that sport, right? And well, it didn't work out, at least as of not as of right now. Perhaps maybe my journey's not over yet. We will see. But it didn't really work out. And then I had to come back to Canada, and then that's how I started the 365 podcast show. I was like, you know what? I got extra time on my hands now. Why not just make a podcast episode every day for a whole year? Do this thing that I kind of had a small idea of doing already. And then we're actually getting into it. Now we're very, very, very deep into it. Obviously, we're not quitting now. We're going to do the full year. Obviously, it hasn't really grown as much as I would have liked it to, but what are you going to do, right? I've kind of tried to make things good, but it is what it is, right? So I talked about my faith journey and how that affected me on my football journey, right? And and well, basically, like, the way I developed faith, the way I found faith in God is pretty simple. Like, when I was growing up as a kid, like, I kind of prayed sometimes. Like, during the COVID pandemic, I said a couple of prayers. I did a couple of meditations here and there, but it was the common lukewarm Christian faith. You go to a Catholic school, you're in the school system, you go to church, but like, you don't really care about God. You don't really you don't first of all, you don't really understand God. You don't really understand his nature, and you don't really care about him. You don't really care to pray or to talk to the Lord at all. You're literally just kind of going about the motions, not really caring at all. And I think even when I was super, super young, I'd even call myself like an agnostic slash atheist. Like, when I was young, when I was a kid and I was dumb and I didn't really understand. Like I'm saying, like, I'm like 13 years old, right? It's just because I didn't understand God. That's kind of where I was at for a lot of my childhood. And even by the time I went to Portugal, I didn't really have much faith. Like, I was just there, and I was just going, right? And I was just doing what I felt was right in my life, which was I left high school and I went straight there to try and make my dreams come true. And I would do it all over again, of course. But maybe first few months or so, I'm just kind of going through things. And then eventually, I don't know exactly when, but eventually, like, I start praying. And eventually I start praying before I go to bed, like very small, short prayers. Like, I'm just kind of starting to develop that. Like, I'm watching a lot of content on YouTube that's like really speaking to me, and like podcasts about the faith, about God, that are really speaking to me. And I'm also going through a lot of tough times in my life. Like, I'm still trying to make it pro. I'm at a club that's not really that good, but I'm still trying to play games, still waiting to play games. I'm going through it. And I kind of found like I was spending a lot of time by myself, and then I'm kind of realizing, like, you know what? Like, I'm never alone, truly. Like, as I'm kind of in my own isolation, grinding hard, trying to make it pro, I realize, like, yeah, I'm not really alone here. I have the Lord, I have God, which is here. He is affecting me. He is pouring out his love into me every day. And as I'm kind of slowly starting to realize that, like, I'm growing stronger and stronger. And of course, during very tough time, when I lost 16 games in a row, every week was just a drag. It was like, ugh. It was like, ugh, here we go again type thing. And it was very, very tough, because I'm like, well, how am I supposed to make it pro if I'm this low down, right? And And it was faith that kind of kept me going. That was those were those things. I'm like, you know what? God's putting me through pains. He's putting me through difficulties. He's testing me to see my resolve and to see how far I can take this. And I'm not gonna quit. And that kind of was the beginning foundations of my faith. So I started to pray a little bit more, and then as I moved, and I was living with some family, but then I ended up moving by myself. When I started moving by myself, that's when I started to kind of take prayer to a newer level. I started to pray both in the morning and in the evening. And then summer 2024 is where we're talking right now. I went to church for the first time. Obviously, it was Portuguese church, so I don't understand everything. I still hadn't like I was like I spoke Portuguese pretty well, but I kind of still wasn't fully developed in my knowledge of the language. So when I was going to church, I didn't really understand truly everything, but I was just there because it was just the beauty of it. I just wanted to be there and sit there and be in that peace, and it was great. It was a great moment for me, and that is what kind of allowed me to move forward. So then eventually, when I came back to Canada, I grabbed my mom's old Bible, and I took it back with me to Portugal, where I decided, hey, I'm gonna read the Bible cover to cover. That was beginning of 2025. I decided I would do that, and and yeah, wow, considering like it's only been a year since all of these things, like since I've read the Bible, it kind of makes me realize just how young my faith is, really, truly. Like I sometimes feel like I have to do everything right, but like my faith really is that young. It's like I've only fully read the Bible like a year ago. So, of course, I shouldn't be expected to understand everything that is within the holy word, right? But I guess sometimes I'm too hard on myself. But yes, I read the Bible cover to cover first 6 months of 2025. Like I really tried to take it slow, tried to actually read passages and analyze it and actually reflect on it, like what does this mean type of thing, rather than just kind of speed reading through it. I was on purpose going slow through it. And then eventually I got through it, and then I and then and then well, things happened like kind of around that like June time 2025. I got through it. Obviously, I was still praying. I was going to church a lot more consistently, at least like once or twice a month. I was going to church. I found a nice, beautiful church that was very packed with a lot of people, that was filled with faith, and and that was a beautiful thing that went through to go through, and it also helped me like develop my Portuguese a little bit. Like they were singing, and it was just a beautiful church experience as well in that time as well, that also helped me develop my faith a lot. And then well, I went to Spain, went on a pro trial in Spain over the summer. I've talked to summer 2025. I talked a lot about that. That was kind of the time when my faith was like really high. Like I had a big fire for the Lord. Like I was having great faith conversations with a lot of people. And then of course I was rereading the New Testament again, maybe twice, third time as I was kind of ending 2025. And obviously I didn't make it pro, so then I had to go through like a transition period a little bit, coming back to Canada, trying to figure out what I'm gonna do. And that's kind of where I still am at. Like the winter was a tough winter, 2025 going into 2026. But yeah, read the New Testament a few more times, continuing to pray, going to church very consistently, and just trying to develop my relationship and my faith even further through it all. And that's kind of where I am right now. That's where I've ended up right now. And I look at where I'm at right now. I think I'm definitely a lot more developed in terms of my faith, in terms of my knowledge of the word, in terms of my knowledge of everything. Like I think you've seen my development. If you followed the show a good amount of time, you've seen my development. Even if you watched an episode here and there, you would have seen how perhaps back in the earlier days of the show, I didn't really know as much as I know now, because I've gone through life experience a little bit, not as much obviously, but a little bit of life experience, a little bit more than I had gone through previously. And of course, my faith has changed, my faith has developed. The way I interpreted certain passages in the past have changed. I would read the New Testament a third time, a fourth time, and I'd look at the passage I've read a few times over, and I would kind of be like, huh, like that's what that means, right? I'd kind of have a new perspective, a new way to interpret and understand the Holy Word, which is the beautiful thing about the Word, is that there's many different ways to interpret it, and all are correct because it's the Word of God. But of course, unless like it's evil, unless you're just trying to interpret it for your own benefit. But most times it's like there's different ways you can look at a certain metaphor, and all of them are correct at the same time, because that's how God works. That it's not a specific linear thing, right? Many different people have different ways they see God. The way they experience God is completely different to the way I experience God. And and that's how God works, but that is why God is so loving and caring, because all he wants us to do is worship him, and he wants us to obey him, and he wants us to live a good life in this life, and prepare us for the life to come, join him in his holy kingdom in the life to come. So many different people have different ways they get there, and it's a beautiful thing as I'm kind of learning these things and I'm kind of experiencing these things. Like I've definitely had a few experiences in my life where like I'd be going through a difficult time, I'd be praying on it, and I would read a verse in the Bible that like kind of was speaking to me directly on the thing I'm dealing with. Like I would like one time, like when I was going through the recent job I was dealing with where I was not really enjoying it, I looked at Romans chapter 12 where it was a verse in there. Romans chapter 12 is honestly like the most beautiful part of the Bible. Like if there was like a chapter that I would take out, it would be that, because it's honestly so amazing. But there's a part in there where it's basically where you say, patient in tribulation, continuing instant in prayer. And when I look at that, and when I read that and I looked at that, I was like, wow, like that is really exactly what I need, to be patient, not to be rushing it. Because even even if I'm going through difficulty, it's okay. God's putting me through things, and on the other side of the difficulty will be great joy. And and it was good. It was good to kind of recognize that and read that, but that wasn't the only time. I'd go through things and I would read the verse, and that would only increase my faith. That would only make me even more kind of knowledgeable and wise in the fact that, of course, God is real and true, and that He's present with me. Makes me feel His presence even more when I pray to Him on certain things, and then I read a Bible verse that is talking to me, speaking to me about the exact things that I'm dealing with. It's such a beautiful thing, and I hope everyone gets to experience that at some point in their life, because it's such a great thing that helps me when I'm in a tough moment regulate my emotions and move in a better direction. So that's kind of where my faith is right now. My testimony is pretty much exactly that. That throughout my life, sure, I was in church, lukewarm Christian type of thing, but I didn't know God. And eventually, as I went through an athletic pursuit, a bigger thing that was like that needed all of me, I that's where I found God. That's where I found Jesus. It's not anything like truly spectacular. It wasn't like a eureka moment, like a one night thing, like a near death experience, crazy thing that like made me appreciative of my life. No, it was just like a slow but sure build up. And as I was building up my faith, my life improved as well. My own self improvement improved as well. Like I found that I was growing stronger, becoming more of an adult, becoming more responsible. As I grew in faith, my own self improved as well. And I found a direct correlation between how I would rate the seasons of my life based on how much my faith has grown. And of course, now that that I went through kind of a season where I wasn't really trying, at least for the whole time, to make it pro football. Obviously, I went on that trial in January, but surrounding that wasn't really the same type of thing. I was going through like a little more of a tougher time where my faith was kind of being tested a little bit. And of course, there'll be more tests in the future. But as I was kind of going through that time, it's given me a new perspective. It's given me new knowledge of what faith truly is. And perhaps this can be an interesting thing for you. It's like faith is actually kind of not really useful when things are all good and happy. During my time, like a year ago today, when I was rejoicing, I was preparing for my professional trial. My faith was as strong as it's ever been. I had that fire for the Lord that I truly remember. I'd be praying and I'd truly be in the moment, and I'd just have so much love for God. And I was in such a good moment at this time last year, basically. But like what faith really is how faithful can you be when life is not easy, when things are not good, when the fire isn't necessarily there. Faith is still praying to God and still trying to glorify the kingdom, trying to do what's good, despite you actually not really feeling good about yourself, about life, about anything. Despite not feeling good, you still try and trust in the Lord no matter what and cling to what is good. That, I think, is a lens that I've been learning a lot more in recent times than back then when my faith was still kind of grow in the growing stages. But yes, I'm still young in faith. My faith is only going to continue to grow, and of course, on this show, I'm going to continue talking about God and how that's a important influence for me in my life. But but of course, like in my life, I still have to kind of do better because I definitely still fall into sins. I feel guilty at times for my sins, and that's been a thing I've been dealing with right now in recent times. But that's like kind of a thing that I have to keep working with God towards and keep praying. But that is really what faith looks like. It's not always going to be like the dopamine hit. You're not always going to have that fiery passion and burning desire within you. Sometimes you just have to kind of keep grinding away and grind your teeth a little bit because your life is not in a good moment. But if you keep praying to God and keep praying on the things you're dealing with, God will respond and he will reward you for your faith through it all. But that's what faith is. It's easy to have faith and it's easy to believe in God when things are going well, when things are going exactly the way that you want them to, when life's good. It's much harder to have faith when things are difficult. And if you can have faith when things are difficult, the faith will continue when things are good. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do, to even when things are tough, to be grateful, to understand that God has a plan for me, that I'm grateful for his plan and I'm grateful for the gifts I still have even through a tough moment in my life. And always remembering that helps me get through those moments. And it's helped me so far, and hopefully it will only continue to help me as I grow stronger, as I grow, obviously become more and more of an adult. I'm only 20 years old. I'm still growing. And yeah, I've had certain faith conversations where like there are older people that are like, yeah, it's very good to see like a young guy in faith, because apparently like at least in with the people that I've known, like it's kind of like a unique thing for a person my age to have this level of faith, at least in my circle and in what I've known. Of course, I'm sure there are many, many people that are my age that have great faith, of course, and perhaps the type of people that watch the show. I see you. Don't worry. But like I think that's what faith is. It's not necessarily when it's good, it's when it is tough. When things are hard, what do you do? Do you stop praying to God, or do you stop showing meaning in your prayers? Or are your prayers not as abundant? Or during your tough moments, do you pray to God about all of those things? And that's exactly what God wants you to do, is to pray to him and give it up to him. Humble yourself in front of him no matter what you're going through. Rejoice in the good moments, and of course, stay faithful during the bad moments. And of course, if you're faithful during the bad moments, then God will reward you with many more amazing times and great joys and love and peace in your days and in your life. Of course, I've been talking about this on my show a lot, but a thing I've been praying for a lot is peace in my days, because kind of my mind's been a bit of a storm. Stresses that I've been dealing with have been kind of a storm recently. I've been praying for peace, and I think I'm slowly getting there. Obviously, it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight, but I'm slowly getting there, and I'm slowly seeing how God is working in me, the things he's working in me. And yeah, I kind of like, as I'm reflecting here, it really does make me think just how young my faith is. It's like I actually realize, oh yeah, like I only decided to pick up a Bible like just a little bit over a year ago, and it's like it's very, very interesting. And now that Bible is pretty worn out. Like it, like literally, like the like I've shown it on the show a couple of times, but like the text on the top is kind of like fading away a little bit because I've just been using it, and I've been opening it up every day, still been consistent in my reading of it, opening up different passages. That's kind of what I'm doing right now, like doing a passage from like a thing that I want to read, not really reading it in order, but reading from like a certain part of the Bible. That's kind of what I've been doing now in recent times, trying to find great words, comforting words, words of God, words of love that God has, and obviously just words of instruction, maybe some practical advice. Of course, the Bible has a lot of that as well. Practical advice for how to deal with situations that I'm dealing with. And it's been good. And it's been good. And I think now, in my life right now, I'm in kind of like a steady state. So I found faith through my pursuit, through like a tough time, but I've made it a thing because I think I've truly developed this belief that God and faith have to be number one above everything else. Truly. You can't really do anything else if you don't believe in something higher than yourself. I've really developed this idea and talked a lot about it on the show as well. Maybe pissed a lot of people off talking a lot about it on this show, but in my life and the way that I go about it, it's like I have to always remember that it's not me doing it. It is God doing it, and it's tough sometimes during emotionally heightened situations. But the more I'm able to remember that, and the more that I'm able to give it to God, the more I'll be able to overcome any adversity that I'm dealing with. And I truly do believe that. I've been developing this thing that it's like I'm not going to let the faith leave me. And I'm not going to let the devil and the evil powers that be break my faith and sway me away from salvation that is imminent because of what Jesus Christ has done on that cross and the blood he shed for me. Always trying to be in remembrance of that fact every day and letting that be the number one thing that drives me rather than whatever other thing, whatever other pursuit is there, right? The football pursuit, right? The football pursuit was something that definitely has driven me, and it's definitely something that I've been trying to deal with. But faith is me always remembering who's number one, right? It is God, not putting anything else above my relationship with God. And of course, I'm not perfect, right? Nobody's perfect, and that's the whole point. And that's why Jesus did what he did on the cross, because he knows that it was necessary to happen, right? So for me, the way I kind of develop my faith is always remember that God will love me and he will be there for me no matter what I go through. And no matter what decision I make in my life, God will still be there for me. He will use it for something glorious, and he will use it to make my life into something glorious and to teach me an important lesson from whatever decision I make. And always remembering that will help me abide in faith and not in fear of things of this world instead of faith. And yeah, faith through the tough times, faith through the times where, maybe it's just an average day, right? That's kind of where your faith has to grow stronger. That's where you can't let the devil have even the smallest part of your mind. Always pray to God and always be in remembrance of God through it all. At least, like, that's what I do in my life, and that's what I found to be quite helpful in getting through the situation I've been going through in recent times. Of course, like, I'm still young, and I understand. I fully expect that there will be more tough times in my life. There will be even harder times in my life, and that's okay. I truly believe that my God is faithful, and I truly believe that all that will happen for a reason for my life. So my faith is in a good moment right now. It's in a very strong moment, and I've been learning what faith kind of truly is during the difficult moments of my life. And yes, you're not always going to have that fire, you're not always going to have that passion, but that's okay, because God will stay faithful to you if you continue to pray to him, you continue to pray on the exact things you're dealing with, and he will pour out many amazing things, lessons, love, everything into your life every day. It's just up to you to submit to him in that way by doing the disciplines, of course. Like, it's a discipline, right? Faith is a discipline, right? And I read the Bible every single day. I pray in the morning, I pray in the evening. I go to church on Sundays, and of course, I'm still trying my best during my days to act out the word. That is probably the most important thing, because you can do all those other things and actually not be faithful, right? Because that's what a lukewarm Christian is. You go about the motions, but you're not actually intentional with it. I'm still trying my best to kind of, in my days, remember the Lord throughout my actions, throughout what I do. And I think it's been helping a little bit. I think I look back on, again, all of this is kind of documented on the show at one point. Like, you can look at some of the videos I've been talking about in, like, January type of time, or maybe earlier days of the show, like first 20 episodes type of thing. Like, I'd be getting very angry at things. Like, anger would be like my primary emotion, and it still kind of is. It's still hard for me to deal with, but anger is definitely a little bit less fiery now that I always remember what God wants from me, to not lash out at other people, to not hurt other people, and to just focus on what's important, right? I had a very, very tough moment where I was very, very angry at life and at everything a few days ago. And that kind of was like, okay, that was like the first time I actually lashed out in that way in like many, many months, which is a good thing, because it means these things are becoming less and less frequent, which is good. I can move forward in a better way. And some of those reflections and realizations that I learned in that moment of anger are actually important, because it is something that I should think about and move forward from, and actually put more work and more effort into things in my life and abide in even more faith. These, like, that moment and that reflection kind of helped me in a little bit of a better way. So I'm looking at how God is affecting my life, and I'm looking at how my faith is growing, and I'm in a good moment, I think. And that's where my faith is at. That is my testimony. That is my proclamation of faith every day. And basically, yeah, I think, as I kind of touched upon in the beginning of the show, this show serves as me to kind of have that little bit of an outlet, a little bit of a way to express my faith in a good way. And again, like, it's a time capsule as well. In 5-10 years, I'll look back on certain episodes and I'll rewatch it and be like, and especially if I start to stray away and things of this world kind of take over, like, I hope not, and I'm going to pray on it for it to not happen. I'm going to do my best. Perhaps if I kind of start to wane a little bit in faith, I can look back on previous episodes and see how great my faith was in the past, and be able to rejoice in that fact. And that will be good for me, and of course it'll be out there on the internet for whatever random person may stumble upon it and may hopefully if any one of these episodes could help someone else and serve someone else and help someone else find their faith, that's good enough for me. But even if it doesn't, it's still just good stuff. It's still a good way for me to reflect. It's a good way to kind of get my ideas out there and to remember, to always be in remembrance of who my God is and of that faith every day. So that is why faith is the driver in my life. Faith is the number one thing in my life, and I've made that to be the case. That is how I kind of developed faith. That is my kind of light talked about story as to how that happened. And where I am to this day, I'm still growing. I'm still a very baby Christian, still very, very early on. Like it really makes me remember just how early on I am in faith, in belief in God, in Christian values and all this stuff. So I need to give myself a little bit more grace. I understand that, of course, because I think I'm way, way too hard on myself. I want myself to be perfect, but that's the whole point of Jesus Christ's teaching, that it's like you're not gonna be perfect. It's through submission in faith that saves you, not through your works anymore, of course. But I'm going through these things. I'm dealing with these things. But as of right now, where my faith is in a good place. Today is a good day because I had a great night's sleep and I had a very amazing prayer. And I've come straight into this episode. It's a very early episode. I'm recording early. Obviously, I'll upload it maybe a little bit later in the day because I got some stuff to do today. That's why I'm recording so early. But that is my journey so far in faith. Of course, it's only just beginning, and I'm very excited to see what is to come. But that's my testimony. That's my journey, and I hope you learned something. I hope that this is an inspiration in some way for you to develop your faith in God a little bit, to crack open the Bible and read some of it a little bit. You don't have to read from Genesis because Genesis, Exodus, like sometimes it can get a little bit of a drag, like the whole Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers type of area with all the laws. Like I'd say, start from the New Testament because that is where the Christian faith truly lies, and that is the foundation for our faith. Start with the four Gospels and crack open that Bible. And I hope my testimony, not just today, but throughout every episode that I make on this show, could be an inspiration for you to crack open that Bible and start to develop your faith and start to explore at least and experiment with Jesus Christ and just how much his love can be poured out into you. I hope that at least one of these episodes can inspire at least one person to do that, and I hope that it does for you, and I hope it speaks to you in some way. So that is my faith journey, that is my testimony, and that's it for this episode. I appreciate you for being here as always, and that's kind of all I got to say on this note. Always remember that it's all backed by faith, and this show specifically is all backed by faith, and I will be on purpose very annoying and very out there about it because this is the place that I have, this is the safe space that I have to do exactly that. So of course bear with me and try to give me a little bit of grace. Don't criticize me too much, and definitely don't hate in the comments because I'll just delete your comments. That's kind of how I've been dealing with that, with over people just kind of going over the top when it comes to hating my faith. I don't like that division, I don't like that anger, and I don't promote that. But yes, give me a little bit of grace, and of course, I hope that this journey, my kind of things that I'm talking about, can be a good influence to you going forward as well in your life as well. So that's all I got to say for today. I appreciate you for being here. As always, show your support in any way that you can. I hope you enjoyed it. The only way you can show me that you did enjoy it is by leaving a like on the video, by subscribing on YouTube, following the show on Spotify if you haven't done that yet, leaving a comment, talking about your faith perhaps, talking about some things that are on your mind, some things you're praying to God to as well. Anything that you can do to show your support on the show, I appreciate it. Anything you can do to, of course, develop your faith, I would appreciate it as well. And, of course, God will appreciate your faith as well in him. So thank you for watching this episode of the 365 podcast. Remember that through it all, it is all backed by faith, at least in my life. And I hope that it can be in some level of influence to you as well in yours. So thank you for watching. Continue to glorify God every day throughout your life. As always, I'll see you tomorrow for the next episode.